Lots of excitement, I know. So I want to introduce to you our panel, and I think that obviously these are some very familiar faces, one of which really needs no introduction, but there are so many incredible accolades to say about Deepak Chopra. Not many know about his musical gifts. He has almost 50 albums on iTunes. Check it out. Deepak was born in New Delhi, India. He moved to the United States in 1970 and became a citizen in 1984. He is an author, a lecturer, and a music composer who has contributed to numerous albums and written over 85 books, translated into 43 languages, including numerous New York Times bestsellers. One of his songs, Do You Love Me?, featuring Demi Moore, hit number 10 on Billboard and remained on the chart for 13 weeks. Yeah. On Home, not only did he compose the music, but he sang, he played percussion, and he even did the tamper drone. Time magazine has described Dr. Chopra as one of the top 100 heroes and icons of the century. And sitting to his left is Sunny Sung-hee Lee, as we like to call her Sunny. She is a virtuoso clarinetist who has released numerous critically acclaimed recordings, frequently active in charity concerts. She is the founder of Concerts for Cause, and on Home, she is featured on the track Father, which is inspired by Krishan Chopra, Deepak's father. Then we have Paul Avgerinos, who is a first-generation American whose father, Kostas, immigrated from Greece to the United States in 1938. Paul is a Grammy Award-winning performer, composer, producer, and engineer with 23 critically acclaimed New Age albums to his credit. He is active in creating scores for a variety of TV shows and is a graduate of the Peabody Conservatory at Johns Hopkins University. And last but not least is Kabir Sehgal, who's a first-generation American. I think we see a trend here. And his parents are both from India. He's, yes, they're here. Welcome. Well done. He is a New York Times bestselling author of 9 books, such as Coined and Jazzocracy, and he's written several children's books with his mother, including The Wheels on the Tuk-Tuk. They go round and round. I'm shocked. So shocked. Yeah, exactly. And there's a surprise ending, so check it out. A multi-Grammy and Latin Grammy award-winning producer, he is also a composer and musician. Kabir works in strategy at First Data Corporation, and he is a U.S. Navy veteran who lives in New York City. So we have an incredible group here, and I think we should start it off with Deepak. Talk about why home. Why this? Why now?
Okay, first of all, thank you, Rebecca,
thank you
for doing this, and I want to thank Kabir's family, Paulette Cole, who's generously given us this space. I've had it for now so many years, thanks to her, and thank you all for being here. So what's the question?
Why home? Why now?
Well, all of us are either first-generation immigrants or this, the offspring of first-generation immigrants, my kids too. And we're experiencing a lot of, not me personally or anybody here, but a lot of people experiencing a lot of anxiety right now with the xenophobia and the ethnocentrism and what is perceived as bigotry and hatred. And I think I've always felt that activism doesn't really work. You have a lot of angry peace activists, and that's a paradox in itself, to be angry and peaceful as an activist. The only way to remove darkness is to bring in the light, and we think art is the best way to do it. Art, music, poetry. Whenever there's turbulence, artists speak with the voice of conscience. Artists are rebels, they're troublemakers, and they offer idealistic visions. And so the artists are coming out.
So, Sonny, Paul, Kabir, you're all rebels. That's what drew you here.
Well, you know the original saying, movers and shakers, which refers to business people, that actually came from a poem, an 1874 poem, in which the poet was talking about his fellow poets. And so there is some truth to the rebels being the initial movers and shakers of this world. But if I could, Rebecca, could I just...
Yes, I wanted to turn it over to you. I'm sorry, I forgot to do that.
No sweat. I just wanted to sort of explain the project a little more, and it sort of takes a big village to make this project happen. So here, this is called Home, where everyone is welcome. It's a book of poems, and the book's inside, and there's a bunch of poems, and it comes with a CD. And there's three components. There's the book of poems, a music CD, which you can listen to, and there's also an audio book, which you can download online, of Deepak actually reading the poems in full. I do want to thank a few people who were part of this production. I'll put this here for now. And Grand Central Press put this book out with Hachette Audio, and it's the first time they've done a joint publication like this. So I just want to thank Gretchen Young at Grand Central. Where are you? She's a wonderful editor. Oh, there she is. Thanks for doing that. And she's here with Karen, who I think all sorts of thanks for putting this out. And also Anthony Goff, who's in the back. So the three of them are really pretty amazing, and I think you should start your own imprint doing poetry and albums together. The second people we need to thank is our record label, Resilience Records, which is it's a new label that is putting out music that's sort of social impact music and music that's about resilience and the human condition. And that is led by Steve Rucheski, who's the visionary. Where's Steve? Steve, please stand. Thanks for putting this music out. And his wife, Rhonda Charlton, is here, who's a wonderful jazz singer, and their daughter, Emma, is here as well. So thank you for being part of this. Sorry, just a few more. Last Facebook, thank you, Facebook, for sponsoring this event. Shannon Mattingly, shout out to you. Thanks so much. Filming, Andy, thanks for trying to film this. Are we in 3D today? Not today. We're in 3D in the room, but just not
in real life.
Yeah, in real life, exactly. So you can use, if those of you at home, you can use those glasses to watch the next solar eclipse. ABC home base, Sarah McDonald and Tayana David, who's going to be reading a poem later. So looking forward to that. And Deepak's team, Carolyn, Felicia, Gabrielle, Attila, Dallas, everyone at the Chopra Center. I think I got everyone, right? And we'll talk about the musicians and poets later. And then lastly, Rebecca. Rebecca has a great podcast called No Limits, right? And she's also, you put like artists on there, which is great, like Jewel and Sarah Michelle Gellar. So it's really great that you have a platform and you're putting on some of the rebels, right? Who need to move this country forward in the right way. So thanks for doing what you do, Rebecca, and everyone should check out the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, over to you.
Thank you, Kabir. I really appreciate that, and I also appreciate all of the people who have made this night possible and everybody who's following along right now on Facebook. And I bet we can post on Facebook a link to where people can find Home going forward after this evening. I'm sure more people will be interested after they hear your stories. Deepak, why don't we talk about you and your story coming to America?
I'll make it short because it's a long story. I was in medical school in my final year. The Vietnam War was coming to an end. There was a shortage of physicians in the United States. I received a letter from a community hospital that I was getting a scholarship. I didn't realize actually it was to fill up a community hospital because all the American doctors were in Vietnam. I had to pass certain exams and ultimately left India with $8. At that time, we had foreign exchange regulations. An uncle of mine lent me $100. So now I had 108. And for those of you who know anything about Indian mythology, Hindu mythology, it's a very auspicious number, 108. I thought I should do something auspicious. I went to Paris and spent it all in one night at the Moulin Rouge. So when I arrived in New York, I had nothing. We didn't have cell phones those days, so I made what is called a collect call to my hospital administrator. They were so desperate, they sent me a helicopter. So my first experience of the United States is lifting off in a helicopter, looking at Manhattan skyline and thinking, this is heaven. Little did I know. 10 minutes later, I was in a small town called Plainfield, New Jersey. And somebody...
Plainfield represent.
Yeah. So the nurse told me, you can take a little time off and get over your jet lag. I switched on the television set, and 5 minutes later, there was a news bulletin. There'd been a shootout at the local bank. The policemen had been fatally shot, and they were being brought to the emergency room where I was going to start in about 30 minutes. So having passed all my exams and never having seen a patient, I had my first panic attack. The nurse called me. She said, we have an expiration. I had no idea what the word meant, but I didn't want to let on. I said, you bet, I'll be down there. And I went into this room where there was a dead policeman. And I made my first diagnosis. I looked at the nurse and I said, he's dead. So then I didn't know what she wanted me to do, frankly speaking. Why do you need a doctor if the patient is already dead? So I asked her, what do you want me to do? And she looked at me very sternly and said, pronounce him. This is the medical system here. Your soul cannot leave your body till an MD, otherwise known as medical deity, says you're free to go. Now, having trained in English in India, which is a little different, the English word for a flashlight is a torch. So I asked the nurse for a torch. And she kind of looked at me, and by now there were lots of people outside. And my nurse looked at a nurse outside. She said, he wants a torch. And she kind of looked me up and down, and she said, maybe he wants to do a cremation. So that's my story.
Wow. What a story. What a story. Sunny, tell us about your experience coming here.
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be in this panel. It's such an honor. I was 9 years old when my parents immigrated from Seoul, Korea to Chicago. And I remember my father being so excited to go to America. And my mother's family, they were already here. Her siblings were already settled in the suburbs of Chicago. And so they invited us to come and join them. My father and my mom and dad, they worked at various factories starting back in the 1978, and they worked at plastic factories, and they also worked at Motorola making parts for the company, and also did some cleaning offices late at night because they had 5 kids to raise, so it was hard time for them. So I'm just very grateful. And eventually, my father gathered enough savings to open up his own store, a coin laundry store in the south side of Chicago, to try to live out his own American dream. And I just remember that when that day came, when we became the American citizen, when we swore an oath to become an American citizen and got that piece of paper validating us that this is we're Americans. I remember my mom and dad being so happy and telling us that, we made it, this is our new home. And, I just have that really fond memories of them. And I'm just very grateful for all their sacrifice, because it's not easy. I have 2 boys, but it's not easy raising 5 kids with very little in their pockets, so I'm very grateful.
Absolutely. Paul, I bet you probably heard similar stories from your father.
Oh, I sure did. So my father was an illegal immigrant and an accidental one at that. So interesting combination, right? So he's born on this beautiful Greek island in 1914, Kefalonia. It's the legendary home of Ulysses from Homer's Odyssey. This is my father's homeland. And he loves mechanical engineering, and he makes his way to Athens and works on buses during the day, goes to night school, gets his engineering degree, gets a big job in London, England, with a shipping company. So his first assignment, they put him on a freighter from London all the way to Portland, Oregon. So here's my father, 25 years old, out in the ocean. Going through the Panama Canal, he gets appendicitis, and he almost dies. And the captain won't let him off the ship because he doesn't want to lose his chief engineer. So he can't make it up, right? So he doesn't die, thank God. They make it all the way around to Portland. He jumps ship, takes a Greyhound bus to his sister, Marika, living in Oakland. She takes him to the hospital, gets his operation, saves his life. Then World War II breaks out, like that month. And the freighter that he was on was sunk by a German submarine on the way back to London. So hard to make this stuff up. So here he finds himself in America, you know, and it's a beautiful story of so many immigrants. He learns English, he works hard, he's sending money back to his 6 brothers and sisters on the Greek island, gets into the defense industry, helps build the weapons to defeat Hitler and Tojo. Jojo and the fascists, you know, and he loves America. He says, look at all these beautiful buildings, and everyone's so nice to me. He used to say that. So it's just, I've cried a lot, you know, working on this project when I'm just rereading some of these stories, and it's just, it's amazing. You think of our ancestors and their tremendous sacrifices and their excruciating hard work so that we can have this good life and to give our children a better life. And so I'm just so proud and happy to be part of this project.
Kabir, let's talk about why this project for you, what drew you here, and your story.
Sure. So my parents are here, and my dad is here as well, my mom, and they came from India. So this story is very personal, right? So Paul and I are musicians, and we were talking at the beginning of this year, and we said, man, what is going on with our country, and what can we do about it? And we said, why don't we try something, Paul's idea, to do spiritual activism, you know, basically taking this type of music, which, you know, it was kind of, how would you describe this kind of music?
Spa music.
Some people
Get a facial, maybe a mani-pedi, you know.
He said it, I didn't say it. So we're like,
Your massage.
so how do you take this music and how do we make it a little more, my word was subversive. And so when you hear this music, you're like, oh, did Deepak just tell me to resist? Because I was just meditating, and and you hear these kind of layers of music. But again, we started this project out of many conversations, and Deepak and I had worked on a previous project that was taking presidential speeches and turning them into freedom, into jazz pieces. We thought, why don't we put together a project? And then I talked to my father, and I said, what do you think about this idea? My dad has a very compelling story. He came from India. He left India as a teenager, and he always wanted to come to America to receive an education, and he didn't have enough money. So my grandmother, his mother, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but, so far so good? Yeah. And so she sold her jewelry to buy a ticket, a one-way ticket to, essentially to the United Kingdom, to Birmingham. And the problem was when my dad arrived at the airport and he checked in his bag, they said, you know, we've got a problem. Your suitcase is 18 pounds overweight. So my dad, you know, his first act of being very enterprising, he went to the restroom, opened a suitcase, put on 18 pounds worth of extra layers, right? And he boarded the flight, right? Right? Very cost effective, very shrewd. Smart. Yeah. So then this flight is headed for the United Kingdom, but it has a stop in Khartoum, Sudan, right? So they land in Khartoum, Sudan, and it's 118 degrees Fahrenheit. So he's sweating profusely, and thankfully the flight attendant said he could, disembark and derobe. So, which he did. He ends up in the United Kingdom. It was, a multi-year stop in the United Kingdom in Birmingham. He starts working as a machinist in a Goodyear tire factory. And one of my favorite stories as a kid is, sitting at the dining room table and him saying, because my dad has had a very amazing career, which I'll get to. He said, my favorite picture, and he has this picture up in our house in Atlanta. He has a picture. He was working as a machinist, and his supervisor, he went to his supervisor and said, "Why is the other department celebrating?" He said, "Oh, that department's won the Good House Cleaning Award." So my dad organized the entire department of, machinists, sweepers, everything, and they won the Best Housekeeping Award in the Goodyear Tire Factory in the 1960s, right? Right? And he's been very tidy ever since, and so, which is true, which I have socks on today. Thanks for the advice. So then he applies to university in the United States, and he gets a list of universities, and English was not his first language, so he gets a list, and he sees that Auburn University is #1 on the list, so he decides to matriculate at Auburn University, not realizing the list was in alphabetical order, and so he thought it was the best. So he goes to Birmingham, all right? From Birmingham to Birmingham in the 1960s, showing up as a brown man in the segregated South, and he shows up at Auburn, but he's even said, the people were very welcoming and kind, and he ended up going to Auburn, became a civil engineer, and became the chairman CEO of this company, which he grew to a huge corporation, second largest engineering company in the world, and then later became the Secretary of Industry, Trade, and Tourism, kind of the Secretary of Commerce for the state of Georgia. So this story is personal. There's a poem about my father in here. There's a poem about Paul's father in here. And there's a poem about Deepak's father in here. So thank you, Dad. And my mom, I don't want to leave her out. She's also from India. She's a professor of psychology. So thanks for doing all that you have. I really appreciate it.
Something, Deepak, you say throughout is that home isn't just a place, but it's a state of being. What does that mean, first off, and how do you achieve that home level of consciousness?
So home is the deeper consciousness, which is behind your personality. Your personality is your ego. It's what everybody else thinks about you, and it's your bio. But as you go past the conditioned mind, then all of us have a place that's called home. It's, for lack of a better word, in spiritual traditions, it's your soul. It's a field of infinite possibilities, infinite creativity. It naturally evolves in the direction of truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. So in that sense, when you go past these secret passages and dark alleys of your mind, you find home. And then you take that wherever you go. There you are.
Wherever you go, there you are. Is there anything, as people are listening right now and thinking, how do I get there? Is there anything you recommend we do? Anything?
Focus on love, joy, compassion, empathy, 1. 2, learn to quieten your mind through contemplative practices. And 3, understand that when you find yourself at home, which you will, it is not in time. It's timeless, and therefore beyond birth and death. And
you sing on this record as well.
With a little training, yes.
Yes, he does. He sings wonderfully. I can't wait to play Deepak singing for you in a few minutes.
I really look forward to hearing that. What was that like, Paul, working with him?
Oh, it was just a dream come true. I've admired and loved Deepak since, for many decades, of course, and I never imagined I'd get to actually work with you, so it's just such a tremendous honor, such a blessing.
Sunny, you play on the track entitled Father,
Yes.
which is inspired by Deepak's father. What was that like? What drew you to that?
It was amazing. Very soulful music that Paul wrote for me, and I'm a classical musician, so I need something in writing. So I said, Paul, I can't improvise. I need you to write me something. So he said, okay, sure, why don't you play this? And he sent me the soundtrack to it, and it was very relaxing. And I, like I said, I'm a classical musician, so I don't really usually listen to the... And immediately I was really drawn into it. And when I played my part over the soundtrack, it was really amazing. And the fact that when Kabir told me that our soundtrack will be paired with Deepak's father's poem, I was just overwhelmed, and it just reminded me of my father. So yeah, thank you.
And the session was so serendipitous. Sunny came in. I think we spent more time joking and having fun. And the actual recording took her solo is about 4 minutes long, and it took about 4 minutes. So, and I just got to tell
Wow.
you, that never happens in the studio. So, it was very, very wonderful. Sunny just took to it so smoothly, and so happy with the way it came out. It's very soulful and beautiful.
Incredible. Kabir, I want to make sure we leave enough time for the audience. So should we turn it over to the audience questions? Does anyone have a question they'd like to ask? One or two questions? As you're thinking about that, I think that the one thing, Deepak, I also would love to hear is the message that you want this project to send the world. And then you can ruminate on that and think of your question. We'll have time for one.
Well, look at the United States. It's one of the most creative, vibrant, diverse, emerging cultures of the world. When you have maximum diversity, just look at the room here or go outside. This is a microcosm of our planet. You walk across New York City and you can see every culture. So when you have this kind of diversity, when you have shared vision for a cause bigger than yourself, and when you connect emotionally and spiritually, then an amazing phenomenon happens. It's called emergence. There's no other country like the United States. We don't need to make it great again. It is great.
We can take one question, or I'll turn it over to Paul for the musical portion. All right. Paul, take it away.
Well, thanks so much for coming, and we're going to play 3 short clips from the album so you can get a feel for how it goes. And the first one is from the opening track, Home, and the very first sound you'll hear is Deepak singing Home, and then you'll hear the marvelous Gita Novotny's awesome vocals. And
I also want to say that the crew at Hachette Audio is actually the marketing people, the editor, Gretchen. They're actually on this track singing Home. So they're our chorus on the track. And my parents actually did the Home as well. So.
That's right, yeah. And Kabir is singing and playing on the track too. Yeah. So, Leonce, you ready? Okay, here we go. This is the opening of the album.
I was just going to say, Geeta is a great, and a shout out to all the guest musicians. That was amazing.
Yeah. Wow, Geeta.
Geeta's a great opera singer, and
Yeah.
she like sent us some tracks back, which were amazing.
Oh, she just knocked it out of the park.
And that song is inspired. The title track is inspired by my father, Home. So that was your journey, Dad. I don't know if you heard yourself in there, but
Go.
that's you.
Yeah. In the poem, it go west, young man. Sweep, sweep, sweep. It's so beautiful. So, and how about Deepak singing, huh? That's it. Oh. Thank you so much. Now we're going to hear a little bit of Queen, where we get to hear even more of Deepak's lovely singing. And this is inspired by the great Latin artist Celia Cruz. Yeah. And on here you'll hear the wonderful Marie Nobry and Chembo Corniel playing congas, and Jeff Oster, one of our producers, is playing his super smooth flugelhorn on this, and a lot of fun working on this track. So this is Queen.
Yeah.
You know, I've got to say one thing, that one of the amazing things about this project is the team, especially Kabir, just inspiring us all to go beyond our limitations. You know, we're all doing things that we've never done before, and that's what happens when you have a great team. It's just so exciting, and sometimes it's a little scary, you know, but like all good things, you grow, you know, you expand, and there's nothing more beautiful than that expansion. So now we're going to hear a track which really sums up the immigrant story. So this is a track called Survivor, and it's got an amazing bass player, Juan Herrero Garcia, and Amarillo Santiago. But the inspiration of it is William Jimeno from Colombia. So this is an immigrant who was a first responder, a 911. So this is an immigrant who went right into the jaws of disaster to try to help people and save people. And that just really sums up the immigrant experience. He didn't think about himself and run the other direction. I think pretty much everybody on his team died.
Yeah, he was a police officer and a U.S. Navy veteran from Colombia.
Yeah. So
Originally from Colombia.
So we wanted to honor that. You know, it's just like, that's really the heart of the immigrant story, isn't it? You know, even just everybody putting their back into the effort and keeping this country amazing and great. So we're going to hear a little bit of the Survivor track.
Tragedy begets resilience. Tragedy begets resilience.
also want to recognize some. So the music, by the way, is available via iTunes, thanks to Resilience Music Alliance. I got that right. And I want to recognize a few people also who were part of this project. Kate Dillingham is here. She plays the cello. I'm not sure where she is, but she played the cello on a song.
Yeah, Kate.
She played it, yeah, on a song inspired by Yo-Yo Ma. And Camilo Kratz and Sandro Kratz. Camilo is a recording engineer who worked and recorded some of our guest musicians. So thanks for being a great engineer on the project too. I appreciate it. So shall we read? Is poetry time?
Yeah, let's get into some of the poems. So on the album, the poetry is very sparse. You know, you only hear a few lines from the poem, some sung, some spoken, some whispered, and we wove it in as part of the tapestry. But the full poems are in the book, and the full poems are in an audio book, which is just the poems alone. And right now we're going to read a few of the full poems, and we're going to pass it to Deepak, who's going to read the Infinity poem inspired by Albert Einstein. And this features Lynn Evers on piano and my good friend Kevin Brahini Fortune on his electronic wind instrument.
Want to introduce the band too?
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
Why don't you go do that? I'll stay up here.
Okay. I want to introduce our awesome home-based band. So we've got Mio Hazama on keyboards. Thank you so much. And we have the lovely Candice Hoyes on vocals. Thank you. And we have Laura Andrea Ligia on saxophone. And Maria Ramos on violin. Thank you. And Chihiro Shibayama on percussion. Thank you. Thank you, Chihiro.
Tagore and Einstein were my childhood heroes because Einstein was the epitome of science. Tagore was the artist. And they met once and spoke about how science and spirituality have to go together. Otherwise, we end up with mechanized death. Space-time asked matter to move. Matter asked space-time to curve. Gravity asked bodies to fall. Black holes demanded stars to vanish. Is the moon there when no one is looking? Does the universe have many histories? Infinity asked universe to expand. Cosmos asked consciousness to reflect. Mind asked matter to dream. Time demanded future to accelerate. Will mathematical abstractions obscure doom? Is it too late for Einstein's nightmares? Scientists asked atoms to react. President asked planes to fly. Nuclear asked bombs to explode. Waste demands morality to explain. Teleport me now to another dimension, away from this junkyard of infinity.
Thank you, Deepak. That's beautiful. This next piece is called Candle, and it's inspired by Khalil Gibran. and features Mehmet Ali Sunlikol on oud, and we have Steve Gorn on clarinet, and my friend Kevin again on EWI. So this is called Candle.
Khalil was, of course, from Lebanon, immigrant. Tortured soul spoke to angels, sparked fire of passion, longings, ecstasy, suffering, craving, pain, death, the gateway to life, love, letting go, dreams, bittersweet memories, wisps of experience, threads of desire, spaces of togetherness, winds of heaven, rebel, hippie, lover, smiles and tears, the agony and the ecstasy, love and addiction, voice of conscience, life extinguished, delicate soul, a brief candle, dark lit corridors of time, now here, now gone, the fragrance lingers.
Thank you, Deepak. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, band. Awesome. So nice. This is a very special poem called Father, inspired by Deepak's father, Krishnan Chopra. And here we get to hear Sunny's clarinet later on in the track. I don't think we'll hear it right now, but it's really amazing. Check out the album when you can. And of course, Ron Korb on flute. So this is Father.
Before, may I say a few words about it?
Please do.
So my father was a cardiologist, one of the most famous cardiologists in India, later ADC to Lord Mountbatten, and cardiologist to the Queen of England, who's still alive. My father, on weekends, would see patients free of charge. They would come from all over India to see him. My mother would cook food for them, and when they left, they would make sure that they had enough money for their bus or their train. So that's how I grew up. If awareness is existence, you have existed in me from when I first became aware and now. If awareness is life, then you have been my life. Since I incarnated into experience and now. From the stories you told to the magnificent hero you were. I am because you were and are. We exist in the awareness where I is thou, thou is me, in every everlasting now.
Oh, is Nick here? Nick Diogan? Did he make it? All right, skip.
Okay, so we'll skip
Next song.
his song, and we're gonna Kabir's gonna read the title poem over an instrumental version. So this is the music that you heard in the very first clip, but without Deepak singing and whispering and all. So it's a very complicated project. If you want to take notes, there we have a handout that will go out later. So, trust me, we've needed it ourselves. So no, it's awesome. Okay, so this is Home, the title track.
Blood of Ganges flow through these swollen veins, now dammed shut by the British Raj. The Raj prevails, Sabji, yet the trains still don't run on time. They groan to a halt. A million dreams dead, an ancient land caged with tigers and songbirds. No courtyards or graveyards for elegies unwritten, but pujas of cremation alongside the stymied, swirling Ganges. Go west, young man. Sweep. Fail your quizzes, tests, and exams. Sweep. But sell your rings, strings, and chains. Sweep. Go west, young man, to riches. Free every pigeon as eagles of possibilities take flight. Sweep those factory floors, $10, no more. Board this plane, sail that ship, double your layers, avoid every fee. New Delhi to New York, Agra to Auburn, Moradabad to Montgomery, Birmingham to Birmingham, where the greyhounds mark their mediocrity and misery, where Jim Crow's noose hangs its history, black, white, and those of color, sweet. Go west, young man, to glory, where a new life begins unannounced, from collar, press shirt, show me $1, stardom walla, where the Mississippi monsoons lift all boats, and the grass is as sweet as chai. But don't rip open that tea bag again. Go west, young man, to thunder and bliss. Unzip your dreams in this lush land. Dream your dreams with a supple mind. Watch your dreams with Hawkeye. Measure your dreams with an engineer's scale. Build your dreams with crushed rock and concrete. Hold tight on political chutes and corporate ladders. Soar, 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 like Arjuna's chariot. Maharaja Marietta, Guruji of Georgia. Go west, young man, to your new home. An Indian's Thanksgiving for America, where neighbors become cousins, friends become in-laws, and family is rain on a barren day. You want to say something, Dad? You want to say something?
One word.
Yeah, go ahead.
You asked to be short, so thank you.
Well said. Thank you.
Said.
I'll make the story very short. Kabir mentioned that when I took the Greyhound bus from New York to Auburn, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I think you'll enjoy the story. 2 o'clock in the morning, so the bus stopped, and he said, stop. I said, there's no taxi. He said, the taxi will come 7 o'clock in the morning, so it was 5 hours. So I talked the bus driver. There was about 20 people in the bus. I said to him, do you know where Auburn Hall is, where I'm supposed to go? He said, yes. So I said, look, these people are sleeping in the bus. Can you take the whole bus to the Auburn Hall? So that's not the punchline. So he brought the whole, it's much better. So he brought the whole bus to Auburn Hall. I rang the doorbell. An old lady came outside in his curls. According to my letter, this is supposed to be Mrs. White, the house mother of Auburn Hall. So I said, "Are you Mrs. White?" She said, "No. Mrs. White is my friend. She's the house mother. She's on vacation. I am Lillian Carter, Jimmy Carter's mother." So I met her at the Thanksgiving that Kabir mentioned. I got a call from Plains, Georgia, from Jimmy Carter's home. They invited me for Thanksgiving. So I remember meeting Jimmy Carter. Even when he's president, I told him, "Mr. President, I knew you when you were nobody."
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's have a little love for Leonce, our sound man, who's doing an amazing job over there. Thank you so much.
All right.
I was throwing him 6 different kinds of curveballs earlier today. He's just like, "Oh, okay, all right, okay." It's awesome. So this is a poem we wrote for my father, and it's called Odyssey, of course, because the island home of Ulysses, that man well-versed in all ways of contending. Long after Trojan War, but before World War, he embarks upon his own odyssey to discover a mythology where you're from matters less than what you believe. Protected by Athena's gaze, avoiding Poseidon's wrath, he sails west where he disembarks to find strength, health, safety, and his Penelope.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Do you have music for this part?
We're going to have music, yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to invite some of our friends who are who've written poetry or who've created poetry just for this moment. And so, what do we want to put them? Oh, up here. Okay. So the first is going to be by David S. Goldman, who's a phenomenal singer-songwriter, a lyricist, who's done a lot of research on his heritage and is familiar with the ways of the West and the East. Take it away, David.
Check 2. Letter to my ancestors. My dear Jewish, Sicilian, and Albanian ancestors, you came in hope and desperation, drawn by America's light. You came as children, at 10 years old, at 17, at 60, with mothers, aunts, and uncles, half-brothers, and stepsisters, from deceased or missing fathers, widowed and remarried mothers, with sick or dying siblings, your families hanging by a thread. No streets of gold, but manure-covered cobblestones. How you yearned for your lost homelands as you sweltered in New York City's tuberculosis-ridden tenements and lullabied your babies to sleep on the fire escapes. Thank you for coming, for risking it all, for bringing with you your deep culture, your stories, recipes, your dreams, your languages, songs, and laughter. You so enriched America and me, more than we can ever realize or admit. Thank you, my ancestors, and all your immigrating brethren, for laying yourselves down as heroic little bridges to a better future for all of us. In the greater world surely to come, under America's light, we will joyously and endlessly celebrate our transcendent diversity.
Next, we'll have Linda Briseño, and she'll share a poem. Maybe just share up front a little bit about your family so they understand some of the references.
Well, first of all, thanks so much it's such an honor being here with all you guys. When Kabir asked me to write a poem, it was such a challenging for me because I'm not a poet, I'm a musician. And then I called my dad. I need you to tell me stories about my grandfather because I don't know anything about him and I would like to write something about him. And then they had these secret stories about who my grandfather was. I knew he was Nicaraguan, I knew he was a musician, but it turns out that he fought with Sandino, a very important figure in Nicaragua, a working class man who helped organize a militia in order to protect Nicaragua against American occupation. So this is my poem. Dear stranger, this world where I live today, which was yours back in the days when you were hiding for your life deep in the mountains in 1934, has changed much. When your body Sandino and you dared to pay the price of wanting to be free, your chaser was a strong and evil enemy. The gringos, as you call them. 83 years later, today, while following your fighter's shadow, I dare to pay the price to be free. My chaser invokes the memory of those like you just to justify suppressing the voice of my people. But most strange of all, my dear stranger, your very chaser is the one who now provides me with shelter and hope as I, like you, run for my life. Upon a thought, maybe both of our stories are not that different. We both ran to the jungle. Yours was a trees jungle, mine a concrete jungle. You play your trumpet to keep your comrades' spirits lit. I play mine to blow a kiss of hope to my people. But what is most important is that your legacy lives in me, just like you hoped. My house is the house that you wanted, the house of the free. Bendición, Cabrerita.
Wonderful. All right, next we have Rodney Wittenberg, who's come up all the way from Philadelphia to be with us tonight. And then we have this and one more, unless, Rebecca, you want to freestyle one? Okay.
So, I just wanted to thank you for inviting me again, Kabir. And what I decided to do instead of writing a poem is I have a little mashup of a poem by Orshan Shire and by Walt Whitman. Many people are leaving or running away from something, and they have many choices where they could run to. And I think these two poems speak to leaving and arriving here into the promise of what America could be. I saw a city invincible to the attacks of the whole of the rest of the earth. I dreamed that this was the new city of friends. Nothing was greater there than the quality of robust love. It led the rest. It was seen in every hour and in the actions of men of that city and in all their looks and words. No one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. You can only run for the border when you see the whole city running as well. Your neighbors running faster than you, breath bloody in their throats. The boy you went to school with who kissed you dizzy behind the old tin factory is holding a gun bigger than his body. You only leave home when home won't let you stay. I dreamed in a dream.
We've had a wonderful evening tonight, and we want to end by thanking the ABC team here. And Sarah's been so helpful with tonight and organizing it, and we've had a lot of fun getting to know Tayana David, who's going to conclude the evening with poetry. So why don't you come up and join us and share your poem.
La langue de ma mère, the tongue of the mother, the flesh of the earth from where you are born that tenderly tethers you to your root, a nourishing nest where your soul forms, then rests like a drop of dew in a tiare flower. Papeete, Tahiti, a glinting tiger's eye set in the silver of the Polynesian Sea, a French father and French-Scottish mother, both grateful migrants on sacred land. On the seventh cresting wave, my nascent mouth inhales the mystery and the tongue of my mother, la langue de ma mère, the language of the sea. Ce ne sont pas les mots, c'est la musique de l'esprit qui parle. Like our great-grandmothers and fathers who danced in the wake of the caribou and medicine plants, sustenance and song lines lead us to these shores. Une nouvelle langue, a new tongue. I will keep gentle hold of my mother's tongue, and of her mother's tongue, and back through the nesting dolls of my people to realize a time before words where all beings rise, a silent totem, our collective backbone. Like our raven ancestors, we fly above man-made borderlines. Propelled by the breath of our revolutionary mother, we spiral into our divine tribes.
So before I give it back to Rebecca and Deepak, I just want to say, we can argue about immigration policy all we want, but it's all about enlarging empathy and connecting on an emotional level with people. And we're all, other than the Native Americans, we're all immigrants. Some of us, our families are forced. Some of us came willingly. And I just hope that this project leaves you with an incredible sense of welcome. And it's been a real joy working with Deepak, the maestro. And thank you for your vision on this. Rebecca, back to you.
So it's now Deepak's turn to do the guided meditation. Fantastic.
Okay, so sit comfortably with your back rested comfortably also. Uncross your legs. Put your feet firmly in the ground. Keep your hands on your lap. And start with just observing the breath. Breath is the confluence of spirit and flesh. Now bring your awareness into your heart and mentally ask the question, who am I? No need to look for answers, just the question, allowing any sensation, image, feeling or thought to spontaneously come to you. Who am I? Now ask the question, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? Once again, allowing any sensation, image, feeling, or thought to spontaneously come to you. What is my purpose? Now ask the question, what kind of world, what kind of country do I want me, my children, and their children to live in? What kind of world do I want to see for them? Allowing, once again, any sensation, image, feeling or thought to spontaneously come to you. Last question, what am I going to do to make that vision a reality? What am I going to do to make that vision a reality? Once again, allowing any sensation, image, feeling or thought to come to you. And now to move to the next phase of this meditation, mentally repeat your full name to yourself. So, I am Deepak Chopra. I am Rebecca Jarvis. I am first name and last name. Now allow your awareness to fill up with all the things that are occupying your life right now. Your job, your worries, your concerns, stresses, all that's happening right now. Let it come into your awareness. Now, let your last name go. Just repeat your first name. I am Deepak, I am Kabir, I am Rebecca, I am Paulette. I am, and just the first name. And now, allow your awareness to fill up with memories of childhood. Anything that comes into your awareness when you were a child and more innocent. Let go of your first name. Just repeat, I am. I am. Letting all memories, all dreams, all thoughts to slowly fade away. I am. I am. I am. If you want, you can replace that with the mantra aham, aham. The vibration of existence, aham. And now let the mantra go and just rest in existence, rest in being, rest in awareness. Being, existence, awareness. We're all home now. God's language is silence. Everything else is poor translation. Just rest in the stillness of being. Home. Before you open your eyes, just feel your body. Come back to this place in space and time. Take a few seconds and then open your eyes.
What an incredible evening. I don't even want to ruin this moment of peace in this room because you've left it at such a great spot. Deepak, Sunny, Kabir, Paul, thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for joining us. Thank you to those who are watching on Facebook right now. Thank you to all of our poets who shared their feelings and their thoughts with us tonight. Thank you to our musicians who all gave an incredible performance this evening. Thank you so much to all of you. You are home. You are home. Thank you.